I'm just going to go back to Diego with your good signal, Diego. Could you give a call for any vessels that are in my skip? There's about 4 that left New Zealand in the weekend, and I wouldn't mind trying to find them. A couple of them will still be in my skip, Diego. Could you put a call out, please? Over.
Yep. Any vessel on the way that wants to contact Gulf Harbor Radio, this is make a try for a relay coming now. Money White, do you copy Patricia, Money White?
He's very light. Good morning, Craig. Go ahead. I'll ask Diego to copy it down. You're still quite light. I bet you're right on the borderline for me. Go ahead with your position. Over. Yes, I got, and it's surprising I'm copying you because you're still not at the usual line. 2937 south, 17842 west. Carry on. Diego, I lost him. I got 000 magnetic, but I need everything else from you, please. Over.
Yeah, we have 5 knots out of 245 magnetic and a power of 1010, and they steering north magnetic, and I need the speed.
Yeah, go ahead with the speed. We both missed that. Over.
Yeah, 6:35.
Yeah, thank you for that. Oh, Charmaine will be interested to know.
That's true.
I think your barometer might be a little on the low side at 1010, but everything else, boy, you're going rather well. Should be 20, actually 1020, but we'll not worry about that. 6.5 knots, and I guess the engine might be on with only 5 knots of that southwest wind, but okay. Is all well on board? Over. Yep, I got the all well on board, so you might need to do a bit of calibrating the old barometer when you get there. So that sounds good, and I know Charmaine will be interested to get that report. All right, going well there for Manawai, and just in front of you we've got Kuhila. So good morning, everybody. I better clear with Manawai, and I'll say good morning to everybody. This is Gulf Harbor Radio, ZMH 286, Patricia and David. We have got a relatively calm morning here, and I see now that it's light enough. I said 100% cloud cover, but I will correct that to about 90% cloud cover. We have 12 degrees, 1, 2. All right, that's pretty damn chilly. 3 knots of southwest wind, 1015.2, and it's fairly steady on the bar here. So a pretty nippy morning, although David was commenting before that it's pretty nippy in New Caledonia as well. So not down to the 12 mark, but certainly not much more. All right, I'm going to also give a call to see whether we can find Kuhila. Kuhila, Gulf Harbor. Nothing heard. Is there any of the other boats that are on their way from New Zealand? Could you please call now? If anyone can hear a boat, give me a yell relay, because I can't copy them. They'll still be fairly close, although Manawai was actually quite clear for a little bit, but very light. All right, and we have a report in from Mezzaluna down there in Fulanga with quite a few boats, a lot of the ICA boats down there, and it looks like all of the GFS, ECMWF, and Predict Wind were all somewhat accurate when they're predicting yesterday 12 knots from the southeast, because in the anchorage they've got southeast 6 to 8, very mild, just a few scattered clouds overhead, and the bar of 1011. And where else have we got here? Nothing much more on the computer. I'll go to the streaming shortly. Actually, there was a couple on, yes, I think. Oh, Valak has come in. Good morning to you guys. Southeast 4 to 6. Boy, there's not much wind around, is there? So there you are. They're up, I think, at Cousteau in near Sabu Sabu. 1011.7, 50% cumulus in Alto Q, and flat seas, lovely for diving, I would imagine. And over there in Tonga, 8 to 12 southeast in the Vavau area. Thanks, Whistler, 100% cloud cover. And Fusio, they're on their way between Tonga. They're on their way from Tonga to Fiji, going rather well, 7.5 knots. That's good sailing for Fusio. 17 knots, 17 southeast in between there, so I don't think they'll be complaining. They had a few hours of motoring out of dinner hour, but then some nice winds, so pretty good for them. And there's an interesting news from Mercelay, if you remember Robbie and Bev. I will give you that if I've got time shortly. But meantime, I shall go on. If there's nobody else to call in, I will give you a bit of news. Not a hell of a lot going on in the world at the moment, but it's quite interesting little bits of stuff. Jack, this is a 2.5-year-old sheepdog, sold at an auction in Ashburton yesterday for $10,000. He's actually a gorgeous looking sheepdog. The average for a sheepdog in New Zealand is 3,900. So evidently they did some demonstrations before the auction of the various dogs for sale, and he certainly demonstrated well. His owner was retiring to a rest home, so I guess he wanted his really good dog to enjoy a really good life rather than sitting around a rest home. So $10,000 for a sheepdog. If you ever, those folk that are coming to New Zealand, take the opportunity, if you ever can, to get a demonstration of a sheepdog at work. It's absolutely fantastic. There's an outfit in Rotorua, I think, that does demos, and you might think it's a bit of a silly thing to go and watch, but it is really interesting. Talking about Kiwi Ana, I had to tell you about this. There was an article in the paper yesterday about how you eat a pie. Now, a New Zealand meat pie is sort of our traditional food. If you think of fast food in New Zealand, you don't think Kentucky Fried or McDonald's or even fish and chips anymore. It is the meat pie. You can buy a meat pie in anywhere from a bakery to a gas station. But the way you eat it, evidently, is it indicates what sort of person you are. Now, let me go through the ways you eat it. Now, David actually likes New Zealand meat pies, and so the way we started eating meat pies was what's called the aristocrat way. It's a very controversial method because it's really not too acceptable as far as Kiwis are concerned, but you just put the pie on a plate and eat it with a knife and fork. Now, that is, of course, the safest way of eating a pie, but after a while, you can graduate to the normal way of eating a pie, and I tried that with David in the weekend. On Sunday, actually, we came home, we got a pie from the bakery, the old steak and cheese, which is our favourite, and we ate it what is considered to be the normal tradies way. Now, a tradie is, a person that's working and just runs in, gets a pie. They hold it in one hand and do whatever other else they want to do in the other. Drive their truck or talk on the phone or, hold your drink or whatever. So that is the normal way of eating a pie. But you have to be able to graduate to that And I think you have to actually have been born to pies and come up through, the children ranks, because you eat it out of the little paper bag that it's in. And what happened with him is he dropped half of it on the deck because we were sitting outside. So you have to be able to chew a bit off and slurp up the juice all at the same time. So it does require skill. But that is the normal way. Now, there are other techniques. Some people will rip the lid off. Now, the lid of the pie is the bit that goes over the top. And they will add the sauce to the meat that's in there and then pop the lid back again. Now, the sauce, David has just said ketchup. Well, in New Zealand, you either have Wattie's tomato sauce, which is traditional, or you can have Heinz ketchup. Now, Heinz actually bought Wattie's many, many years ago, but they had to keep the Wattie's name and the formula, because otherwise, I tell you what, the Hong Kong riots would have nothing on what would happen in New Zealand if Wattie's had gone out of business and you couldn't buy it. So there on the shelf, side by side, is Wattie's and Heinz. Now, Wattie's traditionally is in a red plastic container with a squirt green top, and Heinz, they have these upside down things, but they've finally succumbed actually, and in New Zealand they also have Heinz ketchup in the red squirt thing. But that's the third way. You can upgrade and just take the lid off and plonk the sauce on the top of it. Now, there is what's called the production line technique, and this is something that the All Blacks captain Kieran Reid does. This is actually quite complicated, and you would have to graduate to this, but he holds the pie in one hand and the sauce bottle in the other, so that he can have one bite of the pie, squirt more sauce on, and this alternates all the way through the consumption of the pie. But I would suggest that you first of all skill up on the other method where you could possibly use two hands to hold the pie whilst you're eating and slurping. Now, there is a final way, but I've never actually seen this. It's pretty unpopular, it's quite creepy, but what people can do, I've never seen it happen, is take the lid off and eat the contents of the pie and leave the pastry behind, sort of like a coffin, really. So that's the other way. I suppose if you're on a diet, you could possibly think of doing that. But really what you should do is practice that first normal way when you come to New Zealand, and hopefully after a few months you will get the skills ready to classify yourself as a acceptable Kiwi. If you can eat a pie, make a pavlova, drink a lot of beer, you basically do pass for being a Kiwi. Now, where was I? That took a bit of time, didn't it? Okay, let's get back to some sensible stuff. Greece now has a new centre-right government. The new Prime Minister has promised to rebrand the country and change its image as Europe's problem child in the wake of what has been an 8-year recession. Mississippi, I loved writing that down because as a child, like anywhere in the world, you learn how to spell Mississippi. Mississippi beaches have the toxic algae bloom that we talked about occurring in Mexico last week. All 21 beaches along the Gulf Coast are now closed. Evidently, this algal bloom causes rashes, stomach cramps, nausea, diarrhea, and vomiting. So there you have it. It's a pity that the Jim Beam warehouse in Kentucky that burst into flames a day or so ago wasn't near it, because that would have done something to the algal bloom. It left a lot of alcohol out into the neighbouring waters. 45,000 barrels of whiskey were lost, but it's caused problems in the streams because the bacteria go after the sugar and the alcohol, and they have multiplied enormously, which has depleted the oxygen in the water. The fish have become distressed and then died. So I guess it was a happy death.
They died, yeah, happy.
Very nice on all that alcohol.
You sure they died or just looked that way?
It just looked that way probably. But anyway, so I suppose there'll be a little bit of a shortage of Jim Beam for a while. Logs. All you folk that have come in and out of Marsden Point or anywhere else in the country, you would have seen that New Zealand ships a lot of logs. Now these logs, an A-grade log is about US $139 a ton. That's what these logs are when you see them, or sitting behind them in a truck on the motorway. That price is now down to $110 to even $105, and it's still dropping. There's 5 million tons of New Zealand logs unsold on the Chinese wharves due to competition from Russia and Scandinavia. And I'm told there's a lot of trees in Scandinavia. Aridonna, Heather and Carl, you will know from cruising. They cruise here 1 year and then they drive around Europe the next and alternate that. They're in Scandinavia at the moment. They've just gone to, where they've gone with it. They were in Sweden, gone to Norway, I think. But anyway, they said all they can remember from Sweden is lots of trees. But so there's a lot of competition, and that's a bit of a sad news for New Zealand. $5.2 billion worth of business for New Zealand, but frankly, I personally won't be sorry to see fewer logging trucks on the road. Talking about Marsden Refinery, they're now looking at a 26 megawatt solar electricity generation array on about 31 hectares alongside the oil refinery, which of course you will see as you are going to and fro. Whangarei, 36 to 39 million. I always laugh when they give a range like that, because you know if they say 36 to 39 million, it's probably going to be more like 56 to 59 million.
Absolutely.
But anyway, that's going to be established. So they're hoping to power the whole plant with solar energy. Frankly, I think they're dreaming, because every time we go to Whangarei, it rains and it's often very, very cloudy. So anyway, we'll wait and see. All right, a quick glance at streaming. Oh, that's right, Whistler. I forgot about that. I told you that Fusio was going from Tonga to Fiji, and it is indeed Vanuatu from Fiji. I had from Fiji right at the start. Okay, there's been a lot of people going to Vanuatu this year. Gracious Lady is on their way. They're stopping in Lifu, I think, from the other side, going from UCAL to Fiji, to Vanuatu. I'll get it right in a minute. What have we got? Local talents up there at Bannerman Bay in Vanuatu. Oh, he's not receiving us, and yet we were booming into Port Stanley. Okay, and that's about it. Being Cornish is I'm looking at this from John, is equivalent of eating a pie, and it is eaten one-handed. All right. And Port Resolution down there, 1014, Southwest 15. I'm being dug in the ribs because it must be, oh, it's 2 minutes past. I better hand the microphone over.
Well, she got all excited about these pies. Every time I want to have one, though, she said, "Oh no, don't think about your heart and all that." Well, yeah, they are good, and there's a variety of them too. I don't know. Do they have vegetarian pies? I don't think so. No, that would be against the law. Okay, well, good morning, and well, the synoptic picture is, it's once again similar to what we had yesterday. Two highs and a complex low is the filling in a sandwich almost. The eastern high, it's nearly stationary. It's still strong, 1031 millibar. It's sitting out there at about 135 west. And our western high, the center of it, is pretty much over southeastern Australia. The center hasn't made it onto the Tasman yet, but it will before long. Now, between 160 east and 160 west, that's quite a bit of ocean. That entire area is filled with a complex low system. And a complex low, by definition, means it has multiple centers, multiple low centers, so little areas of cyclonic flow, many of them. Now, the parent low, if you will, the biggest one of the bunch, the lead dog, has the alpha dog, that's what it is, has dropped to 944 millibar, 944. If you can picture that, that's getting into hurricane category, tropical cyclone. Anyway, that's in, fortunately, the Southern Ocean. But other centers are closer to New Zealand. One is just to the west of the South Island. Another one has just formed near 30 south and 165 west, so it's northeast of the North Island. Now, this last one is sending up a couple of troughs, 2 to 3 troughs, actually. One goes over Tonga. There's another one that's just kind of touching western Fiji, and one is basically over Vanuatu. And a little bit further to the north, we have a disturbance that's at 10 and 178 east, and we've got another disturbance that's at 12 and 165 west. So a lot of activity up there. That particular one extends a trough east to the northern Cooks, and just as a review, one of those Fiji troughs that does emanate at the Solomons. So it starts off at the Solomons and comes down to affect the Fiji area, and then southeastward from there. Now, the Minervans, we still have got yachts in Minerva, and one of our troughs does lie over the reef. They had a fair amount of rain yesterday. The major rain is a little bit further now to the southeast of Minerva, which is good news, I guess. But showers are still possible over Minerva proper even today. You look at the satellite imagery, you can see it. The winds today should be south-southeast, roughly around 15 knots. Higher gusts, of course, in the high cloud downflow, maybe getting up to about 20. Now, leaving Minerva to Tonga or Fiji, today the winds en route look pretty good, direction-wise, southeast to southeast, maybe 15 knots, although there may be a light area between, just a light area in between, basically, then it picks up again. Tomorrow, though, you could expect east-southeast on the way to Tonga, but south-southeast on the way to Fiji, still fairly light. But bear in mind that that wretched trough is still going to be an irritant. It hasn't gone away, and it's still sitting there to provide some nice squalls for you that you really don't want. Now, by Thursday, it may be over northern Fiji and northern Tonga, and we'll see about that as these models do struggle to place them accurately. It's very difficult to do a trough like that. Satellite imagery is really the only way to place them, and then of course the yacht reports are essential as well. But that's too late by then. It's a synoptic picture, not a forecast. So looking at models to forecast troughs is not easy for them. A lot of times you need to look at 850 millibars, 700 millibar, to get an idea of what the winds are doing up above, and these troughs are being moved around by these mid-level winds. So sometimes you can get an idea where they're going to go. And then, of course, you look at what your surface winds are doing. And if it's pretty clear in your modeling that you have got winds from one direction on one side, different direction on the other, where they meet is obviously going to be pretty much the axis of the trough. Okay, well, we'll move on to Tonga, and we do see two troughs affecting the group. Like yesterday, one is over New Potatoes to the north there, continuing to be active. The second one seems to be affecting Vavau more than the Hapais and Tongatapu. Now, Tongamet, they've issued a heavy rain warning and a flash flood advisory for Vavau for today. But really, the entire group is going to get their share of cloud and showers off and on today. Now, Tongamet, that is, calls for south to southeast, 10 to 15, rising up to 20 at times for the entire group, and about the same thing for tomorrow. Seas out in the open water about 2 meters, and we still have that easterly swell that's coming in, and that one's about 2 meters. So some of the actuals this morning, Vavau, east 5, scattered cloud. They have towering cumulus, do have towering cumulus there. And at times it becomes fully overcast as the yacht reports are indicating. Barometer 1010, 1010. The Hapais, calm there, rain, overcast, barometer 1011. And Tongatapu, southeast at 7, scattered, and the barometer 1012. The winds are going to pick up a little bit on Thursday and Friday. southeast maybe around 20. Hopefully that could clear out some of the trough activity, but it looks like more coming on the horizon. Early next week, I think, we'll see a little bit more troughing action. Over to Fiji, where there's a lot of residual trough activity from the two that I mentioned. They're going to bring more cloud and showers today and tomorrow. There's breaks in this. There'll be sunshine and all that sort of thing. But those troughs are there. You can see them. Another way that Met Services are able to tell if there is a trough in the area is they look at what's called theta W or theta E. We won't get into how you do that or what it looks like. I may do that one day. It's kind of interesting. But they look for concentrations of this element, theta E or theta W, and where the concentrations are usually the axis of a trough of some kind. So they'll look at their data and they'll see that, and then they'll look at satellite imagery or they'll look at what the models have to say, and then they draw in a trough if they feel confident. Anyhow, what was I going to say? Oh, winds. Yeah, so we'll look for mostly easterly winds, about 15 to 20 today and tomorrow. And I'll give you some actuals that I've gotten. These are from the METARs. These are actual airport reports very early this morning. Nandi, variable 2 knots, scattered, barometer 1010. Savu Savu, southeast 8, scattered, plus a lot of towering cumulus there. Barometer 1009. Nassori, southeast 3, scattered to broken. When I say that, I'm talking about cloud, scattered cloud, broken cloud. But I just leave off the cloud bit. I think you've figured that out. Barometer 1011 there. Undue Point, up where old Jim used to be, south-southeast 12. Strato Q, barometer 1008. Usawa, southeast 6, barometer 1010. Vanua Balavu, southeast 10, barometer 1014. And Matuku, down there in the southern Lao, southeast 6, barometer 1011. The radar loop now shows plenty of scattered showers, lots of activity. If you were to take a horizontal line right through Viti Levu, south of that line, that's where we see the showers, numerous, lots of them. They're there to the north too, but they're just not as frequent as south of that line. Okay, on to Vanuatu. One of our troughs cuts a diagonal right through the group. The heaviest activity is basically Malakula northward. The rest of the group shows a fair bit of scattered and broken on satellite imagery, but the heavier stuff is to the north. So the winds by lunch for the group, mostly southeast, about 15 to 20, with the usual wind shadows that you find in those islands. And about the same thing on Wednesday, southeast 20, some areas 25. Up there around Gao, Melo, northern Pentecost, there could be a little bit more wind up there. And I'll give you some actuals this morning. Sola, southeast 10, broken to overcast, barometer 1010. Santo, southeast 6, scattered, barometer 1011. Anafate, that's the Port Vila area, northeast 3, broken, barometer 1013. Down there in Tana, east 5, scattered, barometer 1013. Anisham, southeast 4, scattered, barometer 1014. And finally, New Caledonia. Imagery shows broken cloud over much of Grand Terre, the Big Island, and our area, the Southern Lagoon. The winds at cloud level, this might be interesting for you, at cloud level, they are moving southeast to northwest, where when I look at Vanuatu, I'm looking at 850 and 700 millibar, winds northwest to southeast, completely the opposite direction. And when those winds become close to one another, they cause quite a bit of swirling in the mid-atmosphere. And that swirling is oftentimes going to cause upflow, and that helps to promote and maintain the trough that's sitting there. So I from time to time will look at those mid-levels, get an idea as to why that trough is hanging on. Anyway, tomorrow expect southeast 10 to 15, up and down the group, and I'll give you not the group, but the moon. Actuals early this morning, the outer reef was southwest 17, so blowing a bit out there. Yield of Pan was south-southeast 4, and Nemea east-southeast getting up to 14, and very cool, 15 C. And they had recent rain there in Nemea. So 15 is getting down there for sure. Blanket weather. And that's it for me. I'll pass it over to the chief. If you have any questions, come now.
And if anybody wants to report in from those folk that are on their way, well, I think Fiji's the place to be this morning. Blue Lagoon takes Exocet strike and sitting there, no cloud, no rain, 3 knots of southeasterly, 22 degrees. Wow, 1010, which seems to fit in. All right, is there anybody with anything to add? Please call. Yeah, good morning again, Jonathan. Go ahead. Ooh, you're not so strong now, but I presume you want a bit more ahead for your area up there at Fortuna. So just stand by.
Looking at tomorrow, Jonathan, the winds, well, they look like they're going to be east-northeast, light, about 10 knots. That's up at Wallace. Fortuna looks like definitely a northeast, about 10 knots. And that is tomorrow at about lunchtime. And looking at Thursday, we're getting a switch. We're getting a bit of a shift. They'll go southeast about 15, I would say, 15 knots. And there is cloud activity. There is a trough that's running through there. So it's quite possible that you could get some showers from that. And whether or not that's going to hang around a bit, we'll have to see. It'll move eventually, but that's the story on the trough. But those are the winds for a couple of days. Over.
Okay, hopefully you got that because we're not copying you now. We never got to Fortuna or Wallace, in fact, so it's interesting. It sounds a few old churches, because I remember as a child collecting money for the missions at Wallace and Fortuna. Funny the things that you remember, isn't it? When Gracious Lady emailed that they were heading to Lifu, all I could remember was getting glandular fever in Lifu. Actually, it's a lovely island, one of the loyalties, but I went and talked to a school, a group, and of course they have the kids all over you, and one of them managed to pass on glandular fever. So you remember sometimes the bad things about a place and not the good things. All right, is there anybody else with anything before we depart? No, nothing heard. The noise has come up now, so hopefully you managed to hear the weather if you needed it. Otherwise, just enjoy your day. It doesn't sound too bad up in the island, and we will try and keep warm here. We had the fire on all yesterday. It was just one of those grey, miserable days. It was quite chilly, but at least it is fine this morning. David has promised me a laundry day. I don't think they'll do much, iffy, he says. Okay, have a good day, everybody. We are clear. The frequency's all yours. And goodbye.